This is Odin's Wolf Survival, and today I'm making a leather camp stool, and I'm laying out the pattern now. First off, you decide how wide you want it. In this case, I took 22 inches. So you draw a baseline 22 inches long, find your half, use a square, set it up at your half point, and draw your upright line. Then now you know your baseline is 22 inches. You go up 22 inches on each side. And you'll have an equilateral triangle. Now on this, after that's set up, you've got your triangle. Well, your camp stools have rounded corners. So the thing to do, you can use a compass and sit here and work out on each point where you'll get the curve that you want. Myself, I just took something I knew that would look right and work right, and in this case it's 4 5/8 inch across. You slide it into where both lines touch the edge, draw your line, all three corners, and it's just that fast. Okay, after we get done with that, this is done. So we're going to cut this out, and we'll figure out from there what we're going to need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double layer this, because that's where your three legs will come in and sit on, and then I'll have to make one a little wider to fit over this for the pockets, to form the pockets for the legs to slide up into. We'll get that in a second. Alright, we have our piece cut out. Now the corner, per se, reinforcements, what I did was I chose the side with the upright line through the leather, and you always, if you're laying out patterns on the leather, do it on the back side. Should go without saying, but there it is. Alright, measure from here to here, and I decided on 5 inches. Once you get the stick and everything up in here, give you enough room to double reinforcement, so you're not stretching this really hard or blowing it out. Granted, over time it'll work it, but I just want the double reinforcement in there for my purposes. I don't like going back and repairing if I don't have to. Okay, so you come up 5 inches, use your square and measure off your 5 inches, and lay your square in, draw a line, go back, draw a line, and then check it to make sure your edges, which should be fairly close in. Okay, once you got that, mark your line here where you can see it pretty well, because you're going to need 3 pieces cut out like this. So we bring it down to where it'll fit in your leather, and don't be cutting. Take this and put it out here. I've seen people do that. When we were learning this when we were fairly young, you know, kids will try that, and mom would shriek like a banshee on stuff like that, which kind of firmly insets it in your mind. All right. There's my edges. So I mark those in here out of the gate where they're right. So when I draw around here, I can take this off, throw my ruler in, and then I'll have a piece. I'll cut it out, and just for ease of handling, I'll cut 2 more off of the piece. So right now we're laying out this piece, and just as you go around it with your favorite pen, make sure you got the edges held down and that it don't slip. You take it off. There you have it. Then you go back through. Okay, that ruler's a bit short, that edge. And there's your piece. Granted, I realize even if your pen don't mark, it'll leave a line that you can see. Just don't usually rub it good. So you take your knife, X-Acto knife, scissors, whatever you're using, cut your pieces out, cut this piece out, set it down in your edges where you already cut, and then cut 2 more after this, draw and cut 2 more, and then you'll have your 3 base pieces, and we'll use one of these to lay out the, we'll set this on the seat, and we'll set off the pocket piece, because the pocket piece will have to come out wider. All right, we have the 3 reinforcements cut out, and that's how they'll sit. So we find the original one, which I marked with a 1 after I cut it, and then the original side. So we'll set it on there, and it fits either way. And once you get that glued down and marked, any little inconsistencies you can trim off later. But we'll get it set, and I'm going to come out each side. I'm going to draw around here. Actually, I'm going to draw around the whole thing. Come out a 1/2 inch. You know, mark it. Come out a 1/2 inch, and then bring the lines down to the curve, which you'll see how I do it here in a sec. And that'll give me the pocket. Okay, now we need to find a piece where this will fit, utilizing the leather as wisely as I can. Okay, there we go. We've got that set. We don't need that on there really. Now we'll draw around this again. Just being aware. And we could probably use that short piece, the pocket piece, but I want to use the original just in case I'm off a little bit over there. That way errors don't compound, and they compound really fast, generally. Okay, there's that piece. Okay, you can see the pocket again. We'll need the ruler. We'll set the ruler across. Draw your line. Keep your fingers out of the way so you get a straight line. Okay, once you have your line, come off this edge. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch. Put a tick mark, and I square it so you can see the point. And a 1/2 inch, square it off, and there's your other point. And then it's just a matter of putting your straight edge on that point and down to the edge of the curve. And this bit, mark it so you know not to cut that. Now if you can't see a pattern in your head how you want to do it, by all means get some brown paper sack, lay all this out on paper, and then cut your patterns out of the paper, and then transfer it to the leather. Me, I don't know when I'm doing this. I usually have the pattern laid out in my head because I can see it fairly readily. So I know where I want to go and how to get there. Most of this won't be seen anyway. And a lot of these lines are light enough that they'll come out pretty readily. That's why I don't use Sharpie. I'll use a pen. And sometimes even a scratch awl to where it'll just leave a line in. But for this, I'm using a pen so it'll show up a little better on video. I could use a Sharpie, but I'm not going to. Now, you take and mark these. Once you get them cut on the back side, mark them as the reinforcements so you know. These, you need 3 of these just like these because they'll fit over the top and they'll form a bit of a pocket since they're wider to get your stick up in. And I didn't purposely cut these. I probably cut them 3/4 of an inch, give you more of a pocket. But I think that'll form enough of a pocket when it's pushed up. And the leather will stretch a bit. So I think that'll be good. One way to safely tell is yeah, that's a pretty good pocket. Point to point. That'll tell you that how big of an opening you'll have. So that will work. Now cut 3 of these. Don't forget to mark these. Then I'm just gonna put an R on them because they're the reinforcement points. Just in case you have to leave your pattern, then you're not scrambling trying to figure out what you did. Sometimes some parts will get close enough that they're almost interchangeable, but once you get the pattern done, everything's wonky, or your project. Wonky's not good. That's all the parts cut out and laid out. Now we'll get around to marking and punching all the holes, and this will be sewn together with a dark hemp, really dark brown cord. It should set in nicely, well waxed, but that's for another part of the video. I've got the reinforcements sewn down all around the edges. I didn't glue them because I didn't have any with me up here. I don't think it's necessary. This is where the leg will rest up against the 3 legs. And I sewed, put them in place, started sewing, put the next one in place, sewed all the way around. And once you got that around, I flipped it over when everything was sewn down, found the hole where I wanted to stitch across. Where's the stitching? There it is. And marked it, and then took a straight edge and a scribe and went all 3 of them and marked them. You can see the mark. Then you go through and punch the holes all the way through both pieces of leather. This one is sewn down, as you can already see. I have to do the other 2 yet, but this is where we're at. Then these pieces of leather that we cut will fit on top, where you'll have your pocket to where the legs will go down into. And they'll stretch a little bit as it should be on there, and the legs will set in up like that. This whole area will be stitched a couple times through, but since it's already sewn once, you'll have to have an awl to kind of open the holes up a little bit to get the needle and the hemp through easier. Otherwise you'll really wear the thread fast, the hemp cord. Even with the beeswax, it'll wear it pretty solid, so make sure you use an awl. We'll try to get a little bit of that stitching in on video when I get to that point. But that's as it sits now. All right, all the stitching is done on this aspect. So essentially this is done at this point. There's the pockets for the legs. Everything's sewn down. What I'm going to do now is go around it in the next pattern with the outside. On the outside as a dress up sort of deal. I've got the edges all stained how I want them. It's all sewn with hemp. You can see there's the pocket, reinforcement, and this is the face. It's usable at this point. It could be considered done at this point. I just wanted it a little dressier. Everything's completely sewn around the edges now, and essentially the top is completely done. This is what it looks like, what they should look like, and now we'll do the legs and other setup on another video.